In this video, we'll take a look at Milaysia Fulwiley going into the transfer portal. We'll look at potential landing spots for her. As well, we'll take a bit of a deep dive on what transpired and led to this, and is going into the portal a good thing for Fulwiley? Is that a good thing for her future? And is it a good thing for South Carolina? Did they make moves that sort of caused this to happen? And ultimately, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Before we start, if you enjoy the content, then please consider subscribing to the channel and giving the video a like. All right, so when this news went down, I went to Captain Will's site. I didn't watch his video. I just wanted to have my own fresh take, but I did go into the comments to get a vibe of sort of what the fan take was on the transfer or going into the portal. And yeah, I thought it was fairly reasonable. It was almost like a somber funeral, like not too much blame for Fulwiley or finger pointing. At the same time, not much finger pointing at Dawn Staley. I think this comment summed it up best. She's a baller. This is like going to a funeral. Hate to see this homegirl leave, but listen, every great player doesn't fit a coach's scheme. Doesn't mean the coach is not great. Doesn't mean the player is not great. You just have to go your own separate ways and wish each other the best. And this sums up the sentiment well, because in Dawn, South Carolina fans trust because she built this thing. At the same time, Fulwiley is a local player, local girl. She played in the high school championship game against Joyce Edwards and went off in that game, and is sort of like a local, like the locals knew about her for a long time, and her staying in-house. And that's one thing Dawn Staley has done really well, put up a fence around South Carolina to make sure the home talent stays home. So that's why I think this transfer hurts more than most. When I think of it, I think back to the Randy Moss Jason Williams commercial where it has the Dukes of Hazzard music in the background, and I can't play that because of copyright. But Fulwiley and the other South Carolina local players that have stayed home represent them taking on the establishment and going out and doing it their way with a bit of flash and flair and putting South Carolina on the map. So that's why, again, I think this really hurts South Carolina fans. Where normally a player leaves, fans are like, fine, don't let the door hit you on the way out. But again, this one stings. Local girl, and then she just came on like a meteor. So she was ranked 13, and in her first game at Paris, she put herself on the map with spectacular plays. Magic Johnson tweeting about her, and from there, that series, that initial game, I wonder if it did her more harm than good, because after that, was she chasing the spectacular play too much? After the championship in her freshman year, Dawn did a radio interview talking about Fulwiley. Have a listen of what she has to say.
And I try to tell Malaysia this all the time because she plays for the highlights, because she's very creative. She's very gifted. She can do things that no other female that I've seen have ever done, female or male, for that sake. But she plays to that. She plays to the crowd, and she wants to give them something exciting every time down. And so I'm trying to get her to play in between those moments, because that's when most of the game is being played. It is. So once she's able to master what's in between those highlighted plays, we'll create more highlights. We'll create more like not just creative highlights, but fundamental basketball highlights. And that is beautiful basketball.
Now, Milaysia Fulwiley's numbers were good her freshman year. She averaged 11 points per game, 43% shooting from the floor, 34% from the three-point line. Her efficient field goal shooting percentage was 50%, and she turned over the ball 1.7 times per game. She was averaging 18 minutes per game, and she had big goals going into her sophomore year. Staley talked about this in that radio interview of what Fulwiley was hoping to do.
What do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do? What are your plans for next year? What are some of the things that you want to get better at? And she said, you know what? She said, when I came in, I just wanted to fit in and just get the information that I needed. So I didn't really challenge to be a starter. So I was like, okay, so you gonna challenge to be a starter? She was like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna challenge myself, and I'm gonna challenge my teammates to be a starter. And that's pretty mature. I mean, that's the way you actually just if you look at how she came in, um, she was feeling things out, and now she's gonna take it to the next level. And once she does, she's gonna make us a better team. If she's a starter, that means she beat somebody out.
And well, that just did not happen. She still averaged 11 points, but her efficiencies this season went down. So she shot, again, 42% from the floor, which was just barely down, but her 3 point shooting was at 25%, which impacted her effective field goal shooting percentage, which was 46%. And her turnovers increased to 1.9 per game. And at times, it was an ongoing issue because South Carolina did not have as much latitude in letting Fulwiley do her thing because they didn't have Cardoso there to clean up messes and get rebounds. So it was a big focus with South Carolina on taking good shots during the games. And that's where she struggled a bit. And it was almost during the season, it was a case of, is Malaysia on? If she's on, we're going to ride her hot streak. And if she's not, then more likely than not, her minutes were going to suffer a bit. As Staley would play Maddie McDaniel, who does a better job of taking care of the ball. She can't score as much, but she was more of a sure thing, which in some ways is what Dawn Staley wants from a point guard, or her guards in general. And this is the South Carolina way. Like Dawn Staley talked about it last year with Fagan when she was not playing well. They have honest conversations with players. If you're not performing, then it's next girl up to see if they will perform.
Yeah, like you have someone like I'll say Ta'Niya Fagan, who I love to death. Like she is, I mean, she's the ultimate teammate, but she's also a young person that really understands when she hasn't lived up to her standard. And you see her playing time fluctuates. It didn't, once it reached the point probably midway through the season, she started just blocking everything out and just playing to her standard. And she played an impactful, integral role on our run to the championship. Like I could count on her, like I could trust her. And she built that through practice, and then she built that through the playing time that she did get, and then she got extended playing time, and then she started one game. Like it's not. I mean, I only have my word. I only have my word with our players, and I try to stick to that as closely as possible. And if I don't, then I'm explaining why. So I mean, I'm fortunate. I'm blessed. I really am. Like every coach doesn't have the luxury that we have. Does it come with some heartache? Yes. I mean, it's hard to not play somebody that's talented, but not so much if they're missing class or if they're not communicating or if they're not playing to their standard. It comes easy, and they really understand that.
And I suspect during the season they did have hard conversations with Fulwiley, and she was receptive to it. Like they had her more focused on getting down the court quickly, making sure you're taking advantage of your talents in transition, which she did. But during the championship game, she got exposed a bit with 2 bad turnovers to AZ Fudd. And no big deal. Back in the day before the portal, a player takes that, they learn from it, they work on their game, and they get better. Much like Raven Johnson after she got waved off by Caitlin Clark in the not in the championship, but in the Final Four game. She went back, she worked on her shot, and South Carolina was much better. And that's what you were hoping to have happen in the offseason this year. But then Dawn Staley and Raven Johnson got a bit of a wandering eye for Ta'Niya Latson, and I don't begrudge Staley for bringing Latson in because you're always trying to upgrade your team. At the same time, I don't begrudge Fulwiley looking at this and saying, well, I'm going to lose minutes out now this is my time. How am I going to develop and get more minutes? And I'm sure they tried to sell her on the idea, hey, you're still going to come off the bench, be our impact player. You'll be able to fight for your job to get it. But yeah, I understand both sides of this, and I'm not sure who's made the right call. It will be interesting. So speculation is rife on where Fulwiley will go. I don't think anybody really knows, but Ole Miss has been thrown out. Louisville, Miami, Florida. I've seen Indiana, Duke, Clemson, Maryland, but nobody knows. But it really seems like two options. I heard Tennessee as well, and I don't see her going to an established program where she's having to share minutes. I more see her going to somewhere like Miami or Florida or even like Florida State, where they hand her the keys and say, for better or worse, this is your team. That's why some have speculated Indiana, because they don't have much in the backcourt. And this is going to be the choice that Fulwiley is going to need to make. And is that better for her in her long-term career? I wonder about that, because I see a lot of similarities between her and Kennedy Carter. If you look at their college numbers, they're really quite similar. So per 40 minutes, Carter averaged 27 points per game versus Fulwiley 25. Field goal percentage 43 for Carter, 43 for Fulwiley. 3-point percentage 34% for Carter, 30% for Fulwiley, and it just goes on across the board. Efficient field goal shooting percentage is 47% for Carter and 48% for Fulwiley. So I see a lot of similarities, and that's good. That means she's a talented player, but at the same time, some would say that that's hurt Carter at the next level, because you can have Carter on your team, but then you have to build your team entirely around her. And by going to a program where Fulwiley might be handed the keys, is that hindering her long-term future in terms of, would it be better for her to eat it and learn how to play with inside a system, get her minutes, and sort of bend a little bit towards Dawn's system, versus going to a Florida State and having the keys and being able to take as many shots as you want? And yes, I know some are going to come at me and say Kennedy Carter's been blackballed. And really, I don't disagree. I think Kennedy Carter should have a job in the WNBA. But I do think there is something said to be able to fit into any coach's system, and that would be more valuable to Fulwiley in the long term. And that's the downside of the portal, is if you don't like it, then you can go somewhere else where they'll make it nice for you, especially if you're a talented player. But I don't know if this is going to serve her well in the long term. Now, Dawn Staley, on the other hand, has she made a mistake by bringing in Latson? Because she knew what she had in Fulwiley, a homegrown talent that trying to get her to play her way. But in a lot of ways, Latson is very similar to Fulwiley. If you look at their per 40, obviously Latson's scoring is better last season at scoring 33.5 per game versus Fulwiley 24.9 per game. And her three-point shooting was better as well, as she shot 34%, and Fulwiley had a down year at 25%. But then if you look at the other efficiencies, so Fulwiley was 46% effective field goal shooting percentage versus Latson that was 48%. So that's pretty close. As well, they both turned over the ball 4 times per game per 40 minutes. So the things that would drive Dawn crazy about Fulwiley, Latson does as well. Not to mention the usage rate for Fulwiley was 33%. Latson is used to having the ball in her hands at 37%. So she's going to have to change her game. So this is not a slam dunk. There will be a period of adjustment. And is that worth it? Is it better to go looking in the portal versus trying to develop your player? And when they brought in Latson, that sort of sent Fulwiley on her way. And that's one question for Dawn Staley in South Carolina. Have they really solved a problem by bringing in Latson? Because I wonder in some ways, Kim Mulkey struggles with point guards. I often compare her to Steve Spurrier throwing the cap, because she gets frustrated with point guards. And in much the same way, the frustration that Staley had at times with Fulwiley, will that just be the same with Latson? Because take, for example, the Maryland game. Fulwiley bailed South Carolina out in the Maryland game. She went off when they couldn't score. She went for 23 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists in 21 minutes. And then following that, in the next game versus Duke, Fulwiley had 5 points on 2 for 6 shooting and did not play in the fourth quarter and was overall limited to 12 points. And you say, well, that's a tough lesson by Dawn on Fulwiley, but at the same time, if you think back to Florida State when they upset Notre Dame at Notre Dame, and you think of that game for Latson just coming home strong and just taking the horse by the reins and leading them to victory. But if you consider in that game, at the 2:37 mark in the third quarter, they put up a screenshot showing how poor Latson had played versus Notre Dame. In the previous game, she only went for 9 points on 3 for 11 shooting. In the current game that she was playing, she only had 7 points and was 1 for 9. Now, if Latson is playing for South Carolina and has that record, does she play the fourth quarter or not? Or does she sub Fulwiley in hoping to get something going? And that's almost the problem when you have a Fulwiley or a Latson. If you almost have to close your eyes and trust they'll do the right thing. It's a lot like Gina Auriemma said about Paige Beckers. Oftentimes I look away when she does stuff that drives me crazy and act like I don't know that she's done it, because I have to trust that they're going to come good and do the right thing. And in that game, obviously, versus Notre Dame, Latson drove them home 23 points ultimately on 7 of 20 shooting. So that's the question. Even though you've switched the players, will Dawn be able to manage Latson better than Fulwiley? And like I said, it's a little bit of if you're a South Carolina fan, it's a bit of a sad situation, because ultimately you're not sure if it really solves the problem that you had this year, because will Latson just replace the Fulwiley role and be in and out? And will her style of play fit? And at the same time, you've lost your local hometown girl that you understand why she's going off to seek opportunities. Anyway, now over to you, your comments, your poison. I'm not sure how this video will be taken. I really tried to play both sides of it and not take a hit on anybody. I like Staley as a coach, and I like Fulwiley as a player. I think they're both really good, much like that commenter said. It just seems sad to me that she won't be playing in South Carolina next year. All right, thanks a lot for watching. Have a great night.